Hey everyone! As you can tell by the title of the video, today we are talking Storygraph. If you don't know what Storygraph is, it's kind of a newer application that has kind of taken the book world by storm. There aren't many bookish apps out there these days that a bunch of people use, but two of the main ones right now are Goodreads, which has been around for forever, and you can kind of track the books that you're reading. You can create shelves and different types of books that you want to read. You can track the percentage of a book that you have read, and you can interact with other people by commenting or liking what they've shared and things like that. The thing about Storygraph that makes it really cool and set apart from other apps is that it gives you statistics for so many things that I think are so fun and interesting to look at and to discover about yourself. It's so fun and so unique, and I absolutely love it. Some of the things that I love that it tracks are like the kind of mood of the book that you read, or how many books you read by certain authors, or how many pages a day that you read. I thought it would be fun to kind of dive into my statistics of the year. Oh, by the way, hello everyone! If you're new to my channel, my name's Elise. It's nice to meet you. And if you're not new to this channel, welcome back. It's good to see you around. As always, be sure to subscribe and join the family. We would love to have you stick around and hang out with us. Question of the day: do you prefer watching videos where it's like sit down and chat like we're doing right now, or it's like a vlog style where you're going about the day and things like that? It doesn't have to just be like for me or for other book channels, just in general. I would love to know. My reading stats for 2022. Also, like, what happened to the year? I cannot believe 2022 is like gone and over already. I hope that you guys had a good year. I hope it was a better year than the previous years. I'm kind of excited for 2023. I have a feeling that it has a lot of good things coming. I'm excited for it, and I hope that you have that feeling about 2023 also. Okay, so let's look. My original reading goal for the year was 75 new to me books, and I think I surpassed that in like June or July. This year my reading has been off the charts. I have never read this much in my life. Anyway, it was 75, and then I increased it once I met it to 125, and I surpassed that as well. I've read 160 books. A few of them have been rereads, and a few of them have been very short novellas. Don't look at this number and think that all of them are full-length books, because they're not. So let's look at the mood. The first and largest mood that I read, and I could have told you this without looking at the statistic, is lighthearted books. I read to escape, so I need that happily ever after. I need that fun, lighthearted, silly kind of book to get me going. Next we have emotional. I probably could have guessed this. Usually there's a lot of emotion in romance books, and I've read a lot of romance books this year. Then we have adventurous. That comes from like my fantasy, action adventure books that I like to read. Also, adventurous books are usually a little faster paced, and I'm not a slow paced gal. Nope. Then we have funny, and I'm honestly surprised this isn't higher, because I think that a lot of the books I read this year were really funny, but I'm not surprised it's in the top 4. Then we have dark. That's a little different from last year. Last year dark was one of my smallest categories, and this year I've ventured into that a little bit more. Then we have mysterious and reflective, also lower categories last year, so they're getting up there. And then moods that aren't very up there, but still here. Hopeful, tense, sad, inspiring, relaxing, informative, and challenging. I'm really not surprised that those are so low. Tense, not my jam. Sad, also not my jam. So I'm not surprised these are so low. Let's go to pace. The pace of book that I read the most is medium, with 54% of my books being medium pace. Then we have fast pace. I'm kind of surprised fast pace isn't higher, because I prefer fast pace. Slow, not surprised there. Only 7% of the books that I read are slow. Let's see what they are. We have the rest of the story. That was so slow. Oh my gosh. Veronica's Dragon. I didn't think it was that slow pace. I thought it would be more medium pace, but Hard Bones was definitely slow. Emma it seemed faster paced to me than slow, but I could kind of see it's more of an internal thing than external things, if that makes sense. Anyway, We Bought a Zoo was slow. Clara and the Sun was slow, but I still really enjoyed that book. Frankenstein was slow. Still really enjoyed it. The Deal, I didn't think The Deal was that slow, but oh well. Grit was very slow. And An Astronaut's Guide, yeah. Yeah, I could see how, yeah, most of these are pretty slow paced. Let's go to page number. Now, according to this, I read 50,392 pages this year. That is insane. Now, I don't know if all of those page numbers include the audiobook page numbers, because if you like translate that into pages, but as far as I know, I read over 50,000 pages of books this year. That is wild. Okay, so I see it right here. So I've actually physically read 34,517 pages, as where I've listened to 546 hours of audiobooks. That's insane. Most of the books that I read are in between 300 and 499 pages. I could definitely see that because I've noticed that a lot of the books I read are around the 300 to like 350 pages. The next is less than 300. Now this has grown in the past year. I have to say, I appreciate the shorter books more than I used to. And then the 500 plus. I read 11 books over 500 pages. Okay, Crescent City, I could definitely see that. House of Earth and Blood is a thick one. Pachinko, woof. House of Sky and Breath, another thick one. A Duel with the Vampire Lord. And then I listened to some of the Harry Potter books. Ooh, These Twisted Bonds was so long. Oof. Oh, and The School for Good and Evil. Okay, I can see that. So I actually listened to most of those, so. Alright, fiction versus nonfiction. I could have told you most of it was fiction. I did try harder this year to incorporate more nonfiction books. I would really like for it to be a goal of mine to read one nonfiction book a month, like a self-help book, but we'll see. I'm not pushing myself too hard. Then we have the genres. I could already tell you right away immediately that romance was my #1 genre. Contemporary as well, because I find a lot of romance books are also contemporary. Then we have fantasy. Now if you looked at this a few years ago, fantasy would be my #1 genre, so it's kind of sad to see fantasy drop down, but it's still up there, still up there. Then we have young adult. I honestly don't see why young adult is a genre. Same with middle grade. It's not a genre. It's like an age specification, but it is what it is. Then we have science fiction, middle grade, LGBTQIA+, which also I don't think is a genre, but I wouldn't know what to describe it as, but I digress. Anyway, you can see all of the different genres that I have explored this year. A lot of different kinds. A few of them that I would like to read more of. I would like to read more science fiction, magical realism. I find I really like magical realism. I'm going to try and read more mystery to get out of my comfort zone next year. Maybe some more biographies. The format. I'm a little sad. I'm so close to being exactly like 33% for each one. But this is a really satisfying pie chart in my opinion. This year I have read 33% print, 35% digital, and 32% audio. I love that so much. Last year it was probably 2/3 digital because I lived in South Korea. I didn't want to buy physical books because then I'd have to figure out how to get them home or I'd have to resell them. So it was just all digital and very few print. So this year I find it very satisfying that it's quite even. Then we have the most read authors. I could have told you right off the bat it was Ruby Dixon. Ruby Dixon is queen. I love her Ice Planet Barbarian series and her Ice Home series. Then we have Colleen Hoover. I've definitely been dipping my toe in the Colleen Hoover pool, trying to figure out how I feel about it. I have a feeling that this statistic won't be quite as high next year, but we'll see. Then we have J.K. Rowling because I did re-listen to the Harry Potter series. I've owned them on audiobook quite a few years now, and I feel like I re-listen to them every other year or so. So I did end up re-listening to that series. Then we have Juliet Cross, A New Queen. She blew me out of the water. I loved her Stay Spell series, so I ended up reading 6 of her books. Then we have Tweety Sutherland, who also is another queen. I love her series so much. The Wings of Fire took me by surprise, and I'm so glad that I gave them a chance. I think I read 6 of her books this year as well. Then we have Sarah J. Maas, because I read her Crescent City books, House of Earth and Blood and House of Sky and Breath. And then I am slowly re-listening to the Throne of Glass series. Then we have Jeff Kinney. This one's a little bit odd, but when I lived in South Korea, my birthday is towards the beginning of the year, and some of my students knew how much I love to read, so they bought me some of their favorite books for me to read. And so one of my 4th grade students loved the Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and so he bought me a few of those books, and I read them and talked to him about it, and so I thought that was super sweet, but normally that wouldn't be on my list. Then we have Katie Robert. I got to read some of her Dark Olympus series, I believe is what it's called, and then The Dragon Bride, I dipped my toe in the water with that, and then I canceled my KU because I have so many books that I need to read, so hopefully I'll get to read a lot more Katie Robert next year. Then we have Ali Hazelwood. Some of her books like The Love Hypothesis and what was the other one? Oh my gosh, Love on the Brain. I can't believe I forgot that. Sorry, Ali. Then we have Elle Kennedy. I started reading the Briar U series, or listening to them, so that was fun. Alright, last but not least, we have the number of books and pages. So let's look at the months of the year. It looks like the month that I read the most, it looks like a tie between July and October. Maybe even January. January is pretty high up there. And the month that I read the least, March and possibly December, but we're only halfway through December, so it's still possible to get quite a few more books in. Now we do have the star rating. This is not accurate. I have not rated even half of the books that I have read or listened to. I've only done 52 reviews out of the 160 books that I've read. I find it very stressful because, you know, I have a Bookstagram, so I write reviews on Bookstagram, then there's Goodreads, then there's Amazon, then there's Storygraph, so just like doing it on all of them gets a little overwhelming at times or a little redundant, so I kind of pick and choose, and I do like batches of them over time. Alright everyone, that about wraps up my Storygraph checkup for 2022. I think it'd be really fascinating to compare several years and see how the statistics have changed over time. If you do have a Storygraph, I would love to know any of the statistics that you feel like sharing. I am a book nerd, and so I love looking at things like that. So feel free to comment down below. Let's have a conversation about it. Alright everyone, until my next video, I hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you for stopping by, and I will see you then. Bye everyone!